So let's move on to our third speaker, Naomi Clarke. Naomi Clarke is a writer, educator and parent. The goal of her work is to raise awareness of taking an intersectional approach to outdoor education and to centre children's rights. Naomi is also the director of a democratic learning community for home-educated children and a freelance outdoor education consultant. Based in London, Naomi has worked in outdoor education, community gardening, permaculture design, ecotherapy, playwork, and disability support across the charity, public and private sector for over 15 years. Naomi today will be joining us to discuss the barriers which prevent some young children from engaging in nature and outdoor play. She'll be sharing her top tips and practical advice for educators and carers interested in supporting young children to spend more time in and with nature. Welcome along, Naomi, and if you have questions for Naomi as her presentation goes on, and also Helg and Connie, please do put them in the Q&A and we'll try and get around to some of those at the end.
Thank you very much, Chadai. That's really great. It's been really awesome to listen to everyone before I start mine. It's quite nice being at the end. Sometimes it seems a bit weird to be waiting, but I'm going to share my screen. It might take me just a second to set it up because it's slightly awkward sometimes. Okay, so thank you for coming. I am talking today about engaging children in nature and outdoor play. It's been really, really awesome to hear about the stuff about Froebel, which is so prevalent in the work that I do today. So as well as being an outdoor education consultant, a mother, home educator, I'm a lover of play in all forms. As Shadai said, I'm the director of a self-directed and democratic learning community for home educated children, where we center play as play is king for us. We don't push academics, however, if the children would like to do so, they can. And there are a whole host of learning communities across the UK, and I'm happy to share details about that if anyone would like to know about it at the end. But today I'm here talking about engaging children in nature and outdoor play with a focus on intersectionality as well. So the popularity of outdoor learning has been rising for decades, hundreds of years actually, but more recently we're seeing it come to a head with huge numbers of schools and nurseries and early year settings running outdoor provision for children, either in-house with staff training or through external services such as other outdoor education providers, forest schools, etc. So outdoor learning, as has been said by the other speakers tonight, boosts confidence, improves communication and social skills, and it has a remarkable effect on children's self-esteem. It's quite amazing the things that can happen, seeing the difference between children in an inside setting and an outdoor setting, with children being calmer, happier, and generally with improved learning outcomes. So in the throes of the ongoing, unfortunately, global pandemic, and with the legacy of intermittent lockdown still clear in the minds of children and adults alike, it's been the most disadvantaged children and families that have had even less access to outside space than they previously had. Outdoor play and learning opportunities are really popping up all over the UK, and yet the feeling of belonging and being outside that some of us feel is not replicated across all of society. And research indicates that the global majority and disabled groups are vastly underrepresented in outdoor leisure activities and spaces, and it's due to various intersecting social, cultural, and economic factors, which I'm going to cover in this presentation today. Oh, there we go. So I've got about 20 minutes. I'm hoping not to run over. I'll try and pick up a bit of time so we've got some more time for questions at the end. I'm going to fill it as much as I can though. So I'm going to be covering what intersectionality is and about cultural awareness, disability and neurodiversity, financial accessibility, and I'll also share my contact details at the end, just so you know what's coming. So intersectionality, it's a really big word. It's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. We're hearing it quite a lot, but what do I mean when I say intersectionality? Probably the best place for us to start. So intersectionality is the acknowledgement that everyone has their own unique experiences of discrimination and oppression, and we must consider everything and anything that can marginalize people, such as gender, race, class, sexual orientation, physical ability, and a whole multitude of other things. So it was first coined by Professor Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, and it was added to the Oxford English Dictionary quite recently in 2015. And its importance is being increasingly recognized in many different sectors of society and in work areas as well. And the Oxford Dictionary definition is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination and disadvantage. And people can have multiple layers of marginalization as well. So they can be Black or other ethnic minorities, which I prefer to say global majority, and you'll hear me saying that throughout. That's because Black and other ethnic minorities actually make up over 80% of the world's population. Therefore, calling us minorities makes absolutely zero sense. So global majority is the term that I use. So you can be from a global majority community, be gender non-conforming, be disabled, and have a low income. And this is where we truly see the intersectionality. It's like crossroads or intersections in a path. We're all dynamic and diverse beings, and we should view ourselves and others in like the fullness of our whole lived experience, not just one part of ourselves. Different things that happen, cross over, and create who we are and the experiences we have of the world. So in this presentation, I'll be giving some tips and advice for extending your outdoor practice or encouraging new practice if you don't currently work outside with children. And I'll be doing so through an intersectional lens, which benefits, the things that benefit some of us benefit all of us. So if we can always work with that in mind, we'll do a great thing. You'll see these pictures throughout as well. That's actually one of my children. I have 2 children, and he's very kindly offered to be a model in a lot of pictures that I use. So we're going to start by looking at the idea of cultural awareness and understanding some of the beliefs and realities that underpin a lack of access to outdoor pursuits for people from global majority communities in the UK, many of whom live in cities. And that's not a coincidence. We live in cities because the legacy of things like the transatlantic slave trade and the Windrush generation, and after World War II, when a lot of the country had been broken down, it was people from other countries, global majority communities, Black and brown people that came over to help rebuild England. We weren't treated very nicely off the back of that, but over we still came. City life means that these communities are overworked, underpaid, exposed to much higher levels of pollution. Generally, people came and stopped at port areas where the biggest ports were, and that's why we're all generally in cities, but have obviously moved out from there as well. Access to green space is often minimal in cities compared to countryside areas, and even where it is available, long working hours mean that families have less leisure time. And the amalgamation of these factors mean that global majority families are more likely to have a fear and anxiety about outdoor play through a lack of exposure. The common things we hear from our parents, so that's me, from my parents, is it's too dirty outside, it's too cold, you're going to get a cold in your chest. If you run in the leaves, there might be dog poo or there might be mud. We're too busy to go out. It's not safe to go out alone. It's unfamiliar. And the anxiety and fear is very real and forms the basis for many forms of marginalization, actually. So some practical guidance for encouraging positive outdoor experiences for families and children from global majority communities. So offer parents talks in your settings and communicate about the importance of outdoor play. This should be offered to all parents, not just parents of global majority communities. This is beneficial to all, just to really highlight how brilliant outdoor play is and why it can create such an important environment for children to be in and to be their true selves. Use names and pronounce them correctly. So I mean use the parents' names and the children's names correctly. It's fine to ask for help with pronunciation. I know it's a bit awkward sometimes, but calling parents mum or dad is not okay. It's not enough. I don't think anyone likes to be called mum. Find out what someone's name is, use it, build that respect and understanding between you and trust. Clear communication of suitable clothing and offer financial support or spares if possible. We'll talk about this a bit more later. I've got a whole section on financial accessibility and I'll go into a bit more there. Be aware of your own views and bias, do the work. We all know what I mean when I say that, do the work. There are lots of books about privilege, race and culture out there. You need to spend some time reading them, understanding your position in the world and how other people are seen and how they experience the world as well. And build positive experiences for children. So we want them to feel warm or cool if it's a hot day, be dry, have fun, and most importantly, be in control. So we allow children to choose if they want to take part in activities outside. We're not forcing anyone to do that. Forcing creates a really negative association. So we're giving them the choice. We're allowing them to be in control. It's really, really important. If you have a mud kitchen or outside play area that focuses around cooking, etc., bring items from kitchens that children see at home, different types of pots and pans, different plates. Think about different foods that the children eat in their homes. Talk to them about it. Things like making leaf roti or bark chip rice. Think outside of the box. You know, children are the ones in the know when it comes to issues about their own culture, religion, language, etc. And they can really be insightful and share really brilliant things. So discuss their traditions, ask what their parents do in the kitchen, talk about what they see at home. Have diverse resources, books, toys and dolls, small world play. Allow children to see books with global majority children and families enjoying the outdoors. It's kind of tricky to find books like this, actually. A lot of children's books either feature white children, white families, or animals for some strange reason. We'd rather see animals in books than black and brown children or Chinese children, or I don't know why that is. I think there is a shift happening and there are some really brilliant books available. So try and get those, allow children to see themselves, all children. And then representation in your staffing. So look at your staffing, especially those who are family or child facing, and have a think and an audit of your team. Look for gaps in representation and consider what could be done. So there's growing evidence to suggest that the impact of bias, both conscious and unconscious, can have a huge effect on children. So despite best intentions and belief in equality, we need to be really conscious of who we have on our team, both inside spaces and outside spaces. So while some may argue that it doesn't matter who's leading an outdoor education session as long as they're competent, there's a lot of evidence suggests that culturally relatable role models do make a difference in how children and young people view themselves and their sense of what is possible, familiar, and ultimately safe feeling. So disability and neurodiversity. So the outdoors is a special playing and learning environment for all children, a place of unrestricted choice, of movement and immersive sensory experiences. When working with disabled or neurodivergent children, time spent in the outdoors is almost guaranteed to produce a stronger response than the levels normally exhibited during indoor play. So my youngest son is autistic, my eldest son is dyslexic, I'm autistic myself, we're a very neurodivergent family, and being outside is both amazing and challenging for us. It can be hard for us to get out there, it can be hard for us to be in different types of weather, but once we're there, we feel calm and relaxed. And you can see this picture of my son here having a nice chill out in a hammock on a swing. So whilst outdoor play is beneficial for all children, there are a further collection of barriers identified in disabled children's participation. So that can be things like overprotective caregivers, physical access issues, sensory differences, limited mobility, and an environment that creates anxiety and frustration. Sometimes it's not actually even being in the space, it's the thought of being in the space and the unfamiliarity. Outdoor spaces which set out to encourage inclusive play must accommodate not only those who are active, outgoing, and enjoy rough and tumble play, but also those who are more tentative and wish to observe, test the water, and maybe look from the side, and then gently begin to participate as their courage grows. It should be a space for both. Freedom to move in a therapeutic, stimulating outdoor environment makes healthier, happier children, teaches essential life skills, boosts confidence, and improves behavior. I said this earlier. These are brilliant skills. We often call them soft skills, but I don't think they're soft skills. I think they're the most important skills that we learn. And early years providers that connect children with nature and encourage outdoor play for outdoor play environments truly support the development and promote well-being for all of the children in their care. And having a space to play outside stimulates and encourages children with sensory sensitivities to explore all of their senses. Good play areas develop both gross and fine motor skills. They help children to improve their mobility and coordination, the vestibular system or balance, and the proprioceptive system, which is body awareness and spatial skills. Vestibular and proprioceptive experiences can be stressful for children who face difficulties with balance and spatial awareness or body awareness. So offering them a safe environment in which to climb, balance, move over different levels and surfaces in a fun way that doesn't feel intrusive really improves their development without them realizing it. Play spaces that allow them to explore where their body is in space and how moving their body can affect the environment around them are really excellent. And playing inside dens that built themselves, for instance, can create a real sense of comfort and achievement as well. So when providing spaces for children, taking children outside that have a disability or are neurodivergent in some way, choice is the essential feature here. So having a mixture of quiet or sheltered spaces and a range of environmental textures, focusing on things like light and dark and shadow, different surfaces to walk on, a mixture of different seating types, some face-to-face for communication, particularly if some children have difficulty hearing or focusing. It can be helpful. Having some seating that can be moved around to create different play areas or different sitting areas is really useful. Different heights of seating as well. Spaces for very physically active play and calmer play as well. We often champion being outside and it being all really rough and let's run around and let's climb trees, etc. But there's huge amounts of value in just being outside and being at peace. And we need to always be sure that we're considering both of those things and all the different types of children and all the different ways that they like to be. Varying resources, considering things like weight, grip, contrast of color, and sensory feedback. Having clean and messy options. I think this is something, again, being outside, we think, yeah, let's get really muddy. Not everyone likes that at all. So making sure that we have things that are water play, things that are muddy play as well. And an inclusion of areas, resources, and activities that offer an element of risk and challenge that can be accessed by all children present. So, and remembering that something that is mildly challenging for one child could be very challenging for another, but it's also really, really important to allow children to feel that element of risk. So I've got a bit of a quote here. This is by Teresa Casey, and she has a book, I've written it here. Instead of highlighting differences between children in a negative way, a good outdoor play environment can absorb and support diverse play behaviors. Inclusive environments are those in which it is possible to play in varied ways that can accommodate children's different ways of being and expressing themselves. The space may play. It's always worth remembering that. You don't have to bring in lots of things to make a space work and make a space dynamic for children. The play is in the child, not in the space. So financial accessibility. When we look at financial accessibility, we come into a new collection of things to think on. And there's a lot of intersectionality with other things. So disability is often correlated with being a low income because the price of disability is so high in this country just to exist. And race and low income also are often present. So when we look at financial accessibility, we're thinking, are family aware of the clothing their children will need to spend time outside? Are they sending them in clothes that they don't want to get messy or damaged because they're worried about the cost implications? Or are the children worried about getting dirty? So clearly explain the types of clothing needed for outdoor play in all weathers. Focusing on items that are truly waterproof and not just the things that are sold as fashion items in shops that say water resistant. They're not the same thing, and often parents don't understand this and they're trying to find the thing that is the best value for money. We have to understand this. So we need to offer financial support for the purchase of sun hats, waterproof and warm layers, and seek funding if possible, and be intentional about it. Don't just leave it until someone asks. These things should be present from the beginning. The offer should be there always. Free is always best if possible. If it can be free, that's brilliant, but make it as low cost as you can. Have waterproof boots, hats, and other outdoor playwear available for play indoors and outdoors. So just put it in your home corner if you're an indoor setting that has outdoor play as well. But make it there. It could be part of the dress-up stuff to build the familiarity and comfort for those that maybe don't frequently wear these items. Putting on boots is super fun. Lots of little kids love wearing boots. Have a good collection of spares and ask families to donate clothes that are like outgrown or not used, or you can buy your own supply. But have spares, bring them out with you, keep them in your space. If your service has a fee, offer free or subsidized places. Again, seek funding if possible. It's not always easy. I know, especially if you're a really small organization, it can be really hard. Funding is available if you can look for it. So this way we can ensure all children are warm, dry, and protected when outside, and also that the fear of ruining clothing is lessened. Funding is only part of the consideration when looking into financial accessibility and outdoor learning. To poverty-proof your practice means to understand that there are ways in which families may feel shame from not having resources, even if they're provided. And understanding that, being generous and well-intentioned, even with those things, you can still get it wrong. But doing your best to provide a service that works for everyone is really, really helpful. So my last point, I'm finishing up now, is that I ask you to understand the need for positive experiences. Many children come from families that are not comfortable in natural spaces, and they never have been, and their parents probably weren't either. And if we can create positive experiences for children in the early years, this means that these memories can move on with them through life and hopefully be passed on to other family members and to their children or other future generations. They need to feel safe, warm, or not too cool if it's, or cool if it's too hot, dry and happy, and to see people that look like themselves having fun. Thank you. I'm finished. So my contact details are here if you'd like to contact me. And yeah, I look forward to having your questions.